Okay, today is the 13th of June and it's Friday. Oh dear. Uh, can we begin? Uh, you are, this is for the Civil Service College, and we're looking at problematic situations that will demand effective, not just effective action, but effective communication. Have we by now recognized that communication is a form of action?
Yes.
Can it be a form of preventive action?
Yes.
Yes. And problem solving action? Yes. Okay. Now, we've said before, some people don't bother to read memos. We know that. Yes? And some people read half of it and then press the delete button. Yes? But the truth is, even if everybody doesn't read our urgent memos and letters, do they have to be written?
Yes.
Yes. Why? Because they're a form of action. And they can also be a form of problem solving. They can also be a form of what? Preempting problems. Solving the problem before it actually takes massive shape. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so I ask you for today to dream up a recurring issue, or even if it's not recurring, it's a major issue, and your experience and your inner voice, which you must trust, have told you that this thing has to be addressed. Your work experience as a worker has shown you where this problem has actually happened before. It's a recurring thing. And even if it is not directly visible in certain conflict areas, it's one of the underpinnings. In other words, it's there beneath the surface. So your experience has told you then that sooner or later this problem is going to recur. It's going to resurface. And so then you want to take some kind of problem solving action through useful communication. Who would like to start first? You've dreamt up a problem and yes? Regina. And I'm coming to you to tape you now.
I said my last class, basically team building
Louder for me, please.
or the lack of team building.
Team building and the lack of, loudly there so we can get it on here.
Or the lack of team building or lack of teamwork.
Team building, the need for team building, obviously. You don't have to say that. The lack of team building and the lack of teamwork. You see this as a kind of nexus. They're all intertwined together to create one huge problem. I don't know if you people saw this thing called, it was an email that a friend sent me. You know, it was going around in the emails, the tip of the iceberg. We've heard this expression, such and such is just the tip of the iceberg. And it was a picture, a real photograph of an iceberg underwater. And we realized that that expression is not just an expression, it's not just a metaphor. Yes? That the real body of the iceberg is actually under the water, which is how it happened with the Titanic, really. Yes? Because it's what was under the water that really ripped the Titanic apart, wasn't it? Okay, so this one then is the tip of the iceberg. Talk to us, please, Regina.
Oh dear me. So basically, how I'm actually taking it from our office.
Your imaginary office.
Yeah.
Your pretend office. Your imaginary office. Yeah.
And what I'm going to mention in my memo is basically because of the low morale and the lack of teamwork that's going on in my imaginary office. We're going to implement a team building activity every so often, whether it's once a week, once a month, whatever it is. Not exactly a social, but something sociable, I guess, that will instill teamwork and team building.
What about you're going to get people together in a social atmosphere? Is it then that you're the socializer, communicator?
Not necessarily, but you have to have a little bit of that in you.
Why? I agree, but why?
To be able to relate and understand everybody's point of view.
Does understanding everybody's point of view mean actually accepting
No.
their views and their advice and their opinions? No.
You can listen to them.
Yes. What's the point of listening if you're not going to change your actions as a result of what you hear?
It's good communication practice.
It's good communication practice, you say, Ivan. What else?
Give satisfaction to the speaker.
It gives satisfaction to each member.
Make
Will
them feel
that,
respected.
Robbie, thank you very much. Will that satisfaction transfer into better teamwork? Yes. Excuse me, my friend, okay? In other words, if people feel that their views and opinions and experiences are valued and respected, even if you don't accept their advice or their directions or suggestions, will they simply feel more valued? And that feeling actually will translate into better team behavior and better teamwork. I agree. Yes. And is this in actual fact then, Regina, in your opinion, part of a larger issue, the issue of listening?
Definitely.
And does this listening happen just with our ears only? No. In other words, management, team building, all of these leadership positions are, could you say that they are emotionally or psychologically based positions? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So tell us more then. You're going to have a regular social type of interaction. Yes?
Kind of.
Tell us more.
So what it'll basically be is, let's just say once a week. And then of course food brings everybody together, right? But we're not gonna have like a full 3-course meal or anything, but we're gonna have some refreshments, right? Because that'll bring people.
Do psychiatrists and psychologists tell us that people actually communicate more openly when food is around and they're eating? Horrible thought, but apparently it works.
So we'll have a light refreshment and plan an activity. There'll be an activity planned by one member of the team, and we'll take part in that in hopes of getting more teamwork and instead of making people feel like they're working around each other, make them feel like they're actually working together.
Yeah. And will people get to volunteer as to what they want to do?
Absolutely.
In other words, will part of the challenge be then actually asking each person to come up with an idea of an activity they want the group to do?
Yes.
Yes? Is there a difference between a group and a team? I'm sure you've come across it in other courses.
In my opinion, there is. A group of people is simply a number of people doing maybe the same task, whereas a team is a group of people working together towards a common goal.
Okay, so basically a group of people can all have similar goals, similar projects. They're all working maybe within the same building, yes, but independent of each other. And they all have different goals. Some people have the goal to get out of this place by 5 o'clock every day, yes? Some people have the goal to finish this contract so they can pay off their mortgages, yes? And so on down the line. Different people in actually the same office can have all kinds of different goals. So they are a group. What binds them together is having the same goal. Anything else, anybody else, would make them stop being a group and become a team. Regina, I know you have something else. You say that they have the same goal. What else? Think about it. If they have the same goal, do they have to have the same values or the same work ethics?
No.
More importantly, I would think work ethics.
Mm-hmm. Work ethics and values often come together, yes? They have to share the same work ethic, don't they? Yes or no? The same view of work and its meaning in terms of the larger picture, in terms of the society, the economy, the culture, and of course, the corporation in which they're working or the institution. Yes or no? Do they all basically have to share similar work ethics?
I believe so.
Is that what makes them, transform them again, along with the same goal from being a group, and is that what helps them to become a team? Absolutely. What
But
else?
Isn't it possible that to establish a team, we can, in consideration that some people function at different levels, but bringing them in as a team, utilizing their better attributes together, you can form a team in that form, in that manner, an effective team. But at the end of the day, when we go our separate ways, I still like beans on one side and corn on another,
Yeah.
and not together. And the fellow might like beans and corns together in his cupboard.
So what you're saying is that becoming a team does not change us for life.
No.
But can it actually, let me just stick a pin here, can it actually upgrade our work ethics
Sure.
and our values
Yes.
as regards work itself?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. You also, Ivan, brought up something else interesting, namely what? Talents.
Sure.
That different people will bring different skills and talents to the table. Sandra may be the gifted writer.
Yeah.
Yes? She is always going to be one of the basic Rock of Gibraltar people in every team, because she is going to be depended on, and we will volunteer her to do the writing. Yes?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Somebody else may be the talented thinker who doesn't talk a lot in meetings, but who will go away and think things out and go to Sandra and say, this is what I've been thinking. Can you put it together as a group memo or something like that? Yes? Or a resolution that the team will work around and towards. Anything else, Regina, or anybody else then, that would make teamwork improve and would actually help in team building? Because your dilemma is, Regina, that you have found that teamwork, team building, and the spirit of a team, these are all lacking. These people are all simply working in this nice air-conditioned building. full stop. They happen to be in the same building at the same times. Well, usually, except for the people who never come back on time from work, from lunch, yes. Okay, anything else? The policemen and the police people, in terms of your experience of what creates a team and team building, what other significant element has to be addressed because of your profession?
Being a dedicated member of whatever team you're placed in.
Being a dedicated member of whichever team you are placed in. No.
From time to time, we don't have choices of team that we have to join. We are placed there, and whatever goals is for that team, we will have to come together by whatever means and skills and dedication to get the work done.
But the key word you use is dedication.
Yeah.
And will this apply, Carlisle, and you people in customs, you're connected closely to the police force, aren't you? Will this apply also to the thing that you all face, namely physical danger?
Then we have to be dedicated, because if four of us is working together, and one my colleague is supposed to do something, and he's not doing it properly, he could endanger the other three's life.
Exactly. So the dedication factor is very big in certain areas of the civil service. Yes?
What about adaptability?
Adaptability, does that take us right back to Mr. Goldman? How does adaptability, why did adaptability come to your mind, Regina, when Sean spoke about dedication?
It came to my mind because he said they need to be dedicated to whichever team they're placed in. And if you're being placed in various teams, you have to be able to adapt to each of those teams.
Okay, so adaptability then and dedication go together, and do they both form commitment? Yeah. Commitment and support. So commitment, support, adaptability, and dedication are all at the core of real teamwork. Would you say that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And anything else to add, Regina?
None that comes to mind.
Okay. What if when you ask people to come up with ideas for these team building sessions, some people say, I have nothing to add. I have no ideas. And basically their attitude is, this is childish.
You're an educator.
You have to educate them.
Help them.
Encourage them.
And, I think too, it could also be someone who's afraid of change.
These could be people who are afraid of change, Carlisle is saying. And
Or teamwork.
You're introducing something new.
they're
and
afraid
you
of
want to be a part of
change
it.
because the
Afraid of
team
change. Yeah.
experience might come up with something that is a personal challenge to them that they really haven't come to terms with either personally or professionally.
Cassandra was asking, how do you assist them? Because if somebody really has the mindset that, oh well, I have to be here to become a member of a team, how do you assist them? They're just there because they have to be there.
Yes.
How do you?
They're there in body only.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you reach out to them? Yeah. How do you help them?
Does
You
this
could set
depend?
performance goals.
Sorry?
You could set performance goals.
You can set performance goals. Yes.
And then you report
And-
back after you reach them.
Sorry?
And then you have a reporting session after you achieve your goal.
Okay. Carlisle, you want to come closer so we can hear you? You can set performance goals for, say, a month of your meetings, your get-togethers, and participation. And then you can have assessments based on whether these people actually thaw out and start thinking differently.
But miss, some of these same people, they're not they're not the ones to lead the change. They're going to be around there. When the wheel starts to roll, they kind of buy the idea. You're surprised to know that they got the most ideas, but they never wanted to be one of those persons to lead the change.
They're not change initiators,
Yes.
but they will be actually cooperative followers, is what you're saying, Sean.
Yeah. They're not pioneers is the word.
They're
Yeah,
not
sure.
pioneers, they're not icebreakers,
Yeah.
but they actually will cooperate if other people come up with the ideas. Is that what you're talking about, Cassandra? Or were you talking about people who simply have a very fixed mindset?
Yes, they just don't want to be a part of that team. They could care less. How do you change their mindset?
I'm sure in the police force and in customs you have met people like that. Or are these areas where the discipline demanded to survive is such that people can't afford to have such mindsets? I'm just asking.
We have had people like that, but within our organization we have things we can impose fines, we can move from a different department to another, or you can impose extra duties.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess failing each one of those, then we'll decide what course of action to take, depending on the reaction of the individual.
Okay. So in other words, we don't want to use the word punishment, but in actual fact, people can be given extra duties if they don't want to be in this team building initiative.
Alternative solutions.
Sorry?
Alternative solutions.
Alternative solutions. You can impose fines, or you can do what we often do in certain situations. We transfer them to another department. Or in actual fact, it can come up in their evaluation when it's time for renewal of contracts, when it's time for performance assessments, yes, even though there are no immediate financial, benefits, they may see where other benefits are involved. Are there some people in actual, I think, Cassandra, what I'm hearing between the lines is the question as to whether or not some people are beyond change. The best change comes from within us. Yes?
You have to see the need.
Sorry?
You have to see the need to want to change.
Yeah, where we actually see the need to want to change. And where we actually see where, from a purely practical point of view, the change will benefit us, either in the short term or the long term. But you're saying, is it possible there are some people who are just so set in one particular groove that it's impossible to either change them or get them to see the benefits of change? These people do exist.
Yeah.
And is this where having all our workers work on a contractual basis can actually help? In other words, can the contract and the non-renewal of the contract be a device by which we actually get across to some people that we don't have forever? And that in real life,
Descriptions too, because one of the issues at our last class that came up was about some of our. Well, I think I made mention of the fact that there's a number of departments that still don't have anything like a procedural manual.
come closer, please.
And I lost.
That some departments don't have a procedural manual.
The connectivity. Where was I before that?
We're talking about persons who are unwilling to change and putting them on contracts.
Right, and if we have a job description, we can isolate persons like that from the get-go, as opposed to going through the expenditure process Because paying them to serve in a position and then observing additional costs by their lack of performance.
Yeah. And the paperwork
we can
involved.
eliminate that by having a job description, and if they don't fit the detail from the get-go, we can eliminate that person. Eliminate in the sense that we can put them, utilize them in some place other than
That road.
where
Or
they
give
wouldn't
them
be
notice.
as effective as we
Yeah.
would like them to be.
Yeah. In other words, if you can create some other position or find some other position for them in which they can stay in their own niche without change. I don't know what position that is in. That is really, because aren't we all subject to change?
But Dr. Wilson, when you talk
Adaptability.
about change, in the past, I wouldn't say I was reluctant to change, but I questioned change. And one of the things that changed my attitude is when I read that book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Who moved my cheese? Yeah.
And it's anybody have not read that book, you need to read it. Who Moved My Cheese? It's awesome. It tells you about 4 individuals and trying to adopt a change. Some persons wait for change to come or to come back, and they wait and we do it tomorrow, whilst the other person will go looking for change. And if you wait there, change will not even come back. It's a story with 2 rats and two human
small
beings.
people.
Him and
Who's
her.
the author?
I don't
Just type
remember.
it.
It's
Who
just,
Moved My
if,
Cheese?
who moved
It's
my,
on
if you
YouTube.
look it up on
It's on
Google,
YouTube.
you'll
Yeah,
find
I
it.
couldn't
Cheese,
find
cheese.
it.
And cheese, CHEESE. And if you have a Kindle, you can find it easily too. But look it up on Google. It's not expensive.
I googled it, but I found
Who
some
moved
other
my cheese?
You
version
should
of
find
Why
something
God
with
Moved
2
My
rats
Cheese or something
outside
like
and 2 human beings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Him, her.
Yeah.
Him and her and I can't remember the rat's name.
Sniff and scurry.
Sniff, yeah.
It's interesting. Okay, so
MD.
Yeah.
who is it?
Yeah. Spencer Johnson.
Spencer Johnson.
Spencer Johnson.
MD.
JOHNSON.
JOHNSON.
Wonderful, thank you. You got that from your magic phone. Okay, question then. Have you in actual fact, Regina, opened up a number of other areas? So your memo then is going to be addressing the need for teamwork, the need for team building, but above all, the need for team spirit. Yes? And your idea is get people together at least once a week over some kind of small meal to compare ideas on changes that could benefit the office and the teamwork. Maybe small changes. You know the expression, small changes can make a big difference. Yes? What else are you asking people to use as the umbrellas for preparing for these meetings? You're going to ask them to come up with ideas. Will you also suggest some ideas?
Yes.
Such as? Well, your idea that you had come up with, can we actually make more money for this organization while facilitating the public better? Namely, speeding up results. If you pay $25 more for this document, if you want it in a day's time, we will prepare it for you. Just pay the money. Now, this sounds mercenary, horrible
No.
word, but it isn't, because people lose documents, they put them in safe places, and some people, I'm sure all of you have done this over and over when you're working for the public, you do everything else for other people, and then you find, oh my gosh, the deadline is coming, I don't have that document. Yes? So in actual fact, was that an example? Practical ways in which we can actually make more money for the corporation, but we can actually facilitate for the public's needs. Anything else? Any other ideas?
No,
No, but you're going to ask everybody to sleep on it and come up with ideas. Your idea, Ivan, of a clear job description
Yes, ma'am.
and clear procedural policies, which you actually write down in little booklets for people in different departments. In other words, if you have difficult members of the public to deal with, what are your procedures? The police people, I'm sure, have clear guidelines.
Clear guidelines.
Exactly.
Especially with human rights now in place.
And of course, with the human rights in place, we're often, I hate to say this and to record it, but we're quite often it's the wrongdoers' rights that take precedence, and the workers, the sincere workers' rights are put on the back burner. Yes? And the wrongdoers often have a very clear idea of what their rights are.
Oh, do we do?
Yes. So procedural manuals, yes. Clear, very clear job descriptions. Anything else? What's missing here if we want to build a team spirit? Sandra, we haven't heard from you. Those of you who are parents, how many of you are parents?
Happy Father's Day.
Have a what?
Oh, I was saying the guys held their hands up. I said Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, yes. Well, ladies, we've had Mother's Day, haven't we? Whether we're mothers or not, biologically speaking, we're mothering somebody, I'm sure.
I agree.
Question. Parents notice that rules are good, but rewards can be equally good. What about rewards as part of team building and building team spirit?
Good stuff. But isn't that one of the cruxes of the degradation of society right now?
No, it depends.
I would call it incentive.
Come closer.
Incentive, then I give you an incentive.
Incentives and rewards, but Ivan said, aren't rewards part of the crux of the degradation of society? Come closer.
How you do, Mom?
I do, you do?
Come closer, please, Ivan.
Yes, Mom.
And Doris, you when he said that, you reacted immediately.
I'm sorry.
Come
When it
closer.
comes to my kids, I got
No, not
We're
just the
talking
kids.
about work.
Work and workers. Could a reward system be part of team building? Now remember, this is your project. This is the one you dreamt up, Regina.
dreamt it up.
And, and I'm sure that by the end of this session, a lot of us are going to adopt it or adapt it to our own needs, or we're going to adopt it like our own baby. Yes? Okay. And Tracy, you've been awfully quiet, so we're coming to you in a minute.
Well, I kind of missed the beginning, so I'm trying to get myself up to speed by listening to.
We're looking at the dilemmas that we want to address.
Okay.
And she came up with the big dilemma in her imaginary office,
Right.
namely the lack of team spirit, the lack of team building, and the lack of teamwork, which all go together, yes? Okay, so we're going to hear from you in a minute, Tracy. But come back to you, please, Ivan, yes? I know we're going to hear from you, Tracy. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's about all I.
No, but were you being ironic? When I said rewards
Kinda,
and
but-
Sandra said incentives, you said rewards and incentives can be at the base of the degradation of society. Tell us more.
Well,
We're it seems like for everything we do, we expect a reward. Even the simplicities of going across, allowing someone to pass across you when you're going in the opposite direction, I do that, and when, if not even acknowledged to say thank you, I think, why in the hell did I do that? But it's still a basis of reward, even though I'm being respectful, if you will, to someone else. However, in the workplace, my job performance tends to be based on my salary. Well, I'm more aware, what's really important is how much I'm being paid. And
But
when
is that really the only thing?
Well, the point that I'm making is that when someone says, can you do this, or this has occurred, one will say, well, that's not my job description, or they don't pay me enough for that. And sometimes those of us that are in lesser positions of authority, if you will, or make less than some of those that this sometimes include, we take it upon ourselves to go the extra mile to suffice the need, irregardless of the fact that we're not paid at the level of some of those that
Who say
should
it's
be
not my job.
performing. That's right. And in a lot of cases, performing the job. They should be performing the job and are not.
So, Ivan, what you're saying is then you're bringing us back to values and work ethics. And you're bringing us right around to, wasn't it you, Tracy, who brought up something just before we closed last time? Namely, was it you who said, okay, there are people who, when we're talking about ideas that can actually improve things in the workplace, was it you who said, but there are some people whose attitude is, if I will not benefit personally from this innovation, I am not going to help make it happen.
Yes.
Was it you,
When
Tracy?
When you bring up your point in your office about
Yeah.
saving costs,
Cutting back.
that you
Oh,
cut
yes.
back time or
Thank
something
you.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. No,
That-
yeah, about exactly that. I'd mentioned about when we were all invited to offer cost-saving measures, and I had suggested that possibly we could take unpaid leave. And the attitude I got back was, well, if the department didn't directly get to keep that money, and that it just went into the general government
pot.
coffers, then why would we bother doing that? It's an inconvenience to the department to have people out of work.
In other words, if you're going to inconvenience yourself, will your department keep the money, and will you see benefits to yourself within the department happening, which has to do with whether we identify with a larger community of workers and of employment, or whether we simply identify with our little niche in it.
Right.
Exactly.
And of course, does this also bring us to the other idea of vision? Where is our vision? Do we have a vision of ourselves as part of something larger than ourselves? And do we recognize that if the larger whole, if the larger structure is in trouble, financially as in this case, we are in trouble? And we should not want to wait until we lose our jobs, until we are laid off, because the whole structure is in so much trouble. We shouldn't want to wait that long in order to recognize that every little bit helps.
Exactly.
So it's part of the vision problem. And does that take us back to the change argument? In other words, how do you change people's vision? In some cases, what? You re-educate them how? Give them some time with the Taliban who will change their point of view.
Help them realize their potential and attributes. I heard a minister speaking yesterday, a day before yesterday, and he was talking about how our children and
How to
behind the bag of pants, do we see the minister in that child? Do we see the doctor? Do we see the cop? He's 13 with the bag of pants. Behind the earrings, do we see the preacher? Do we see the doctor? Do we see the cop? And when he's hooking and with the music, do we see a singer? He talked about again, do we see a singer on the choir? Do we see a preacher? Do we see a doctor? And do we see a cop? The potential that child, though his pants is around his rear, where it shouldn't be, in my opinion.
No.
But do we see the potential that this child can become a doctor?
Was this a church minister?
Yes, Mom.
Yes.
Yes, Mom.
Sounds that way. Why do I say it sounds that way? Are we still looking at a very idealistic point of view? And, okay, we all want to see the best in our workers. Yes? Call the workers our children. We all want to see the best in them. But does performance or the lack thereof over enough time tell us that the potential
Yes, Mom.
is being ignored by the very person involved?
Yes, Mom.
And in that case, what do we do? Coming back to, are you looking at punishments, as in put them to sit in the corner for a while? Yes. My father's punishment to us, the favorite one was, sit down with the encyclopedia till I come back. Yes.
It paid off.
And don't move an inch. Yes.
You were there quite often.
Sorry.
You were there quite
The
often.
humans would beat you to death.
Yeah.
You don't believe in punishment or time out.
Yeah.
They would beat you. Because
That
that's all
too.
they want to do.
But, okay, so just think in terms of punishment. Some punishments are actually more constructive than others. The encyclopedia was. But punishments, but rewards. I read something recently that said, that one of our problems was that people were not given recognition for going the extra mile all the time. And the truth is that a lot of us in the particular workplace were going the extra mile all the time. And I guess this is where the person, well, no, I shouldn't say this. Okay. Rewards. Are there small rewards and small gestures of recognition that can make a big difference? The thank you letter is one.
Yes.
We said that. That's why it's such an important communication. Okay. So we've opened up a number of avenues. Coming back to you then, Regina. Your memo for getting this show on the road, so to speak, would be actually quite wide-ranging. Okay. Are we in fact seeing some group memos, some group projects? Okay. Well, just let's think about it. Other people came here with ideas today for this communication that has to happen, because it's not just a memo or a letter. It's actually, in an odd way, a change builder. Yes? Who else is next? Tracy, you left here with an idea, an incomplete idea last time. and we said, think about it some more. How would you address this? Obviously, it's a shocking attitude, yes? And, you know, for some of us who are maybe the potential director types of communicators, we would just say, put them in the corner for life, you know? Let them stay there. But how would you address what is essentially a vision problem? It's not going to help my particular department. It will not get me any increments or promotions. So I'm not going to make that effort. Even though the effort is not coming in on Saturdays and working for free, the effort is simply getting my holiday, how did you put it?
Unpaid leave.
Unpaid leave instead of a paid holiday, just to cut back on costs. How would you attack that, Tracy,
I've
in
struggled
terms?
with it a bit. I have thought about it since I mentioned it, and in fact for the last couple of years since it came up, and it was not sort of received well. It was a couple of years ago we were asked for these cost-cutting ideas, and all this time it's fizzled away at the back of my mind, because personally I just worked for government for 7 years with 18 days off a year. And that, from when I started in my job, my children were 4 and 6 and 8. And at that time especially, 18 days in the year, when my husband's a teacher and he had the school holidays and the children had the school holidays, and I was trailing into work every day and they would say, Mummy, stay home, that was very hard. I would have loved the opportunity to have a bit of extra time.
Even if you didn't get paid for it?
Yes, because fortunately for me, I have a husband who's working too. We could afford to adjust to a week or two's unpaid work for me and that at that time.
So would you then resurrect the idea?
I would still pursue this idea, but the dilemma is for the people who can't afford it. Do you make it compulsory, say you will take a week of unpaid leave, or is there a choice involved? And that's where the directors have to come in and do a sort of a needs analysis, if you like, on you know, do they impose it on everyone or is it optional?
Is this where the democratic or the laissez-faire management approach would work? In other words, where you give people options. Those who can afford it and who simply want the time with their families. Maybe some people are doing a course. Sorry, Miss Sandra, I've had my back to you. Can say, okay, I love that.
Mm-hmm. There would have to be guidelines. It would obviously, you couldn't just ditch on your job and say, well, I'm taking this week, I've had enough of you, and disappear, you know. I mean, there would have to be a structure. And as I've thought about it over time, I thought you would have to perhaps opt for it at the beginning of the fiscal year, so that maybe you wouldn't lose a week's salary out of 1 month's pay. It could be prorated throughout the year from the start. You make that decision at the beginning of the year, yes, I will take 1 week unpaid, or yes, I will take 2 weeks unpaid, so that monetary loss is spread out. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so that could work. Also, there could be a limit, so you can only take up to 5 days or 10 days.
Okay.
So it has to have a structure to it. It couldn't just be, well, you know, have some unpaid leave. That's not going to work.
So you've been thinking it through a lot.
Yes.
So you are actually pretty much ready to write.
I don't know how to write it, but I have the ideas, yes. I will
You're going to have to get it done. Okay. How many of us would go along with Tracy's idea and would want to write our memo, using the idea, but write the memo ourselves? How many of us want to go with Regina's idea and do it with her or do it on our own? I know that group work is inconvenient because maybe you have to get together, but you can get together online. Think about it, but I want to hear from the other people. You all came here with an idea, and Doris, even though you weren't here, I'm sure you have ideas. maybe emanating from your own work experience, as to what kind of dilemma do you see surfacing and resurfacing over and over? And how could you attack it through starting the communication on it, that ball rolling? Or how many of us want to work with either Tracy's or Regina's idea? But I think we have some other ideas floating around at the back of our minds from the people from whom we haven't heard.
At the back of you.
Huh?
I actually thought we should have, it would be something about the ship system.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a similar thing, because I actually wrote it, similar
Comment?
ship thing.
Oh, good. Talk to us. You wrote it, you went ahead with it?
Yes, I wrote it.
Okay. Sandra, do you want to come over here, please, dear? Uh-huh.
Of course you do. Come on.
Oh,
No, this is the mama's memo. No,
Yeah, which one?
this is the big problem-solving communication.
Okay.
Oh, I wasn't
The
here.
Gerald
so I
No.
didn't know.
Gerald
We
Joseph.
decided at the end of last class, the mama's memo, the ship
Gerald
girl.
Joseph one
Yeah,
you're
it's the ship
talking?
one, yeah.
Yeah, remember we saw Mr. Gerald Joseph soon, and we, yeah. But at the end of last class, did we say that we have to dream up a dilemma?
Similar to that.
Similar.
Similar to-
Uh,
yes, this is
we all did the mama's memo, yes?
addressing
Yes or no?
their one-
No.
As far as-
You,
Did we actually do the mama's memo?
no, you told us we could either choose a topic or do that
Something,
one.
Or do it, so
Okay.
I did.
Okay, but I want to hear from you people over here now. You've been too quiet on something, a dilemma, because are we all going to have to do this difficult problem-solving communication? Yes, we're all going to have to do it. Okay,
Dr. Anderson, sorry, can I ask a minute? I'm not sure if I missed something either when you first presented the work or earlier this evening. I'm sorry I was late. The memo, as I understood it at the moment, you wanted us to do something similar to the mama's memo.
yeah, but the mama's memo is a problem-solving one.
Right.
But the idea was that we're going to get maybe something more far-ranging. The mama's issue is fairly simple, yes?
So we would, within the work that you'd like us to present to you, we're going to sort of present the issue plus a choice of solutions to it, plus a bit of troubleshooting, plus hopefully a nice conclusion that will make everyone feel
And a
happy about what they
deadline.
read. And then
A deadline.
a deadline
Yes.
for the people's choice.
Yeah, in
Okay.
other words, do we have to find some solutions, suggest some solutions rather, the way Tracy has come in and suggested. But in the end, do we have to give deadlines that whatever solution we all agree on, it has to begin by X time?
Right, okay.
In other words, we can't just sit down and think about this thing. Yes?
Yeah.
We actually want to see the improvement starting by a certain date. Yes or no?
Yes, right.
No. The mama's memo was optional. Yes?
Okay.
How many of us have actually done it? No. But we looked at Mr. Joseph's own and we said, well, this is a problem-solving memo. But in a sense, was the mama's memo fairly simple to solve? Okay, the mama's issue. But we wanted a more complex issue on which we are going to have to do some analysis of the problem, make some suggestions like what Regina is suggesting or what you, Tracy, are suggesting. And do we have to set a deadline
Yes, right.
for compliance?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, anybody else with a dilemma that you've seen?
I just want
Mhm.
We're
clarification
setting
deadline.
a deadline set.
How does, her idea, how about deadline?
By September of this year, we wish all members of this department to give a view on this idea of the unpaid leave.
Would you definitely take it? Would you definitely take 5 days? Would you definitely take 10
A
days?
general consensus, then of
Yes.
the idea.
And be aware that if you do not submit a view,
Thank you.
you will have to accept whatever
Was decided.
the group decides, along with input from the CFO, because is the financial aspect a part of it? Yes or no? Yeah. But we want your views before we go to the CFO. Isn't that it? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Participation. Okay. Anybody else with a view of a dilemma? You people in customs must have a dilemma.
Last class about saving costs like excessive gas use to vehicles.
You want to put it on the thing or not?
Scary,
Huh?
scary moment.
I would.
Shall I bring it to you?
No.
No,
I
okay.
mean, just like
Okay.
the excessive use of gas.
Can I put pause then? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. May I? One of the big issues, and it came up in the newspaper, didn't it? Yes? Was the one you're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I can press pause. Making friends.